Welcome back. In this session, we're going to cover tuples as well as sequences. We saw that lists and strings have many common properties such as indexing as well as slicing operations. They are basically an example of sequence data types. Do refer to this list if you like, or this link if you like. Now, Python is an evolving language. Other sequence data types may be added in the future. There's also another standard sequence data types, which is called tuple. Now, tuple consists of a number of values separated by a comma. Now, the example of this, remember we use type bracket whatever the variable is to check what it is. So here you have, this is actually a tuple. Now again, you can actually do indexing. That gives you 12.54. Notice that tuple has a bracket to it. Tuples may be nested as well. That's where now you have U as the actual tuple. Tuples are actually immutable, so that means you cannot change the value, much like string. Hence you actually have a type error here. It does not support items assignment. But they can contain mutable objects. Okay, so V here is actually a list. Notice that V is not a list, sorry. Inside here is actually a list. Okay, 2, 3, 4 is a list, 6, 7, 8 is a list, but the bracket means that the V is actually a tuple. From what you can see here is that an output tuple are always enclosed in parentheses, so that nested tuples are interpreted correctly. They may be input with or without surrounding parentheses, although often parentheses are necessary anyway. It is not possible to assign to the individual items of a tuple. However, it is possible to create a tuple which contain mutable objects such as list, which is what we did here. We created a tuple with mutable objects which are list. Now, tuple may look similar to list. They're often used in different situations and for different purposes. Tuples are immutables and usually contain heterogeneous sequence of elements that are accessed via unpacking or indexing. Lists are mutable and their elements are usually homogeneous and are accessed by iterating over the list. Notice therein lies the actual key difference. Tuples are typically, because it's immutable, they are accessed via, and they are often heterogeneous, meaning they have different types of data types, and usually you access it by unpacking or indexing. That's one. Lists are mutable and elements are usually accessed by iteration. A special problem is the construction of tuple containing 0 or 1 item. The syntax has some extra quirks. So empty tuples are constructed by an empty pair of parentheses. A tuple of 1 item is constructed by following a value with a comma. So it's kind of weird. It is not sufficient to enclose a single value in parentheses. Ugly but effective. So if you're creating an empty tuple, you just use the bracket, so that's fine. But if you try to do this, this is not a tuple. Okay, it's just not a tuple. But if you put a comma, it's fine. Okay, so it's perfectly fine. So this should actually technically be over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the statement, this is an example of tuple packing. The values, these are packed together in a tuple. The reverse equation or operation is possible. Basically, you have x, y, z, unpacking it, and you have the first stored to x, second value stored to z, the last value stored to z. Okay, so this has become x, this becomes y, this becomes z by unpacking it this way. This is called, appropriately enough, sequence unpacking. It works for any sequence on the right-hand side. Sequence unpacking requires that there are as many variables on the left side of the equal signs as there are elements in the sequence. So that means the number of variables on the left must equal to the number of elements. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. Okay, note that multiple assignment is really just a combination of tuple packing and sequence unpacking. Right, so with that, I'm going to stop. In the next video, we're going to go into sets.